Hello, good evening, students. I am Mr. Adedokun by name, and the particular subject I'm to take you is physics, and the topic I'm going to be looking at in physics is nothing but vector quantities. Vector quantities. Of course, you all know that in physics we have two types of quantities. We have scalar quantities, and of course we have vector quantities. As for scalar quantities, they are the quantities that only have magnitude but they don't have direction, while for vector quantities you have quantities that have both magnitude and of course direction. Scalar quantities, vector quantities. Examples of scalar quantities are mass. We have speed, and so on and so forth. But for vector quantities, you have velocity, you have force, and so on and so forth. So having defined both quantities and given their examples, let's move on vector quantities, because that is our major focus. So we'll go to addition of vectors. When you have more than two vectors, how do you resolve them? How do you add them together? That is the next thing we are going to learn. We have spoken that vector quantities have both magnitude and direction. That means if you want to define a vector, you must define a vector completely by mentioning both magnitude and direction. So it is on this basis that we are going to be adding our vectors. For example, now, addition of vectors. If you have two vectors, let's say 5 Newton and 3 Newton. Both of them are acting towards the right, that is, they are acting to the east. If you want to add them together, you are going to add both the magnitudes together. 5 plus 3 equal to 8 Newton. Then you consider the direction. You can see that both of them are moving towards the same direction, which is east. So to completely define a vector, you have to define both. You have to define it both in terms of magnitude and of course direction. So we have defined the magnitude, which is 8 Newton, addition of 5 and 3. Then the direction is what? Is east. So it's going to be 8 Newton acting towards what? The east, since both of them are acting towards east. So that is for a case of two vectors acting in the same direction. What if you have two vectors acting in opposite direction? Let's say our 5 Newton acting towards the east, 3 Newton acting towards the west. This is east, this is west. If you want to add the two vectors together, what do? Now, since they are acting in opposite direction, you have 5, which is bigger than 3. So you have 5 minus 3, which is 2 Newton. But don't forget that the bigger force is acting towards the east. So the direction of the resultant, or the direction of the result of the addition, is going to be the direction of the bigger force, which is going to be what? 2 Newton towards the east. So that is where we are going to stop today. God willing, by next week we will continue on other aspects where you have two vectors acting together and acting to one another in 90 degrees or lesser or more than 90 degrees. Thank you.